Hey there. Welcome to Inside Scoop. I'm Paula Rizzo. So, are you one of those people who quit your job already? Did you do that this year? Was that on your to-do list and now it's done, or maybe you're thinking about doing it? Well, I have an interesting guest for you today to talk all about content that you could be creating that will lure potential employers your way. Okay, so I talk a lot about creating great content and video and making sure that you put yourself out there and all that. This is a little different, a little bit of a different animal. And it's because, it's the new year and people are looking to change what they do professionally. The content you put out into the world will help you do that. So I'm going to bring on a great guest in just a moment. But before I do that, I have another resource for you that I think you will enjoy to create your own videos. If you go to check out my checklist at paularizzo.com/checklist, it's my checklist for becoming a go-to media expert. And media these times, or it's not just, traditional media like TV and radio. This is creating all of your own content as well, any videos that you want to do. So you can go ahead and check that out. I'm also a LinkedIn learning instructor, and I have a whole bunch of courses about productivity, using lists, how to set boundaries. And also, if you're doing a hybrid work environment, there's a couple in there for you too. Whether you're working remotely or you're working in the office, you should be productive. And so I have some courses there for you to check out. You can check that out on LinkedIn Learning, or if you go to paularizzo.com/LinkedIn, I have everything there for you. Throughout this video, I want you to share this with whoever you think might be interested in sharing some content to maybe get a brand new job, maybe to impress their bosses at their job, whatever it may be. So just use the share button below, or maybe tag a friend, tag somebody who you think might benefit from this conversation. We would love to hear from them. And leave your questions throughout. We'll get to your questions at the end. And without further ado, I would love to bring on my guest, executive coach and career strategist, Susan Peppercorn. Susan, thank you for being here.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me, Paula.
Of course. So Susan and I have known each other quite a while. She's one of my long-term media training clients and friends. And she has so much to tell us about content. We talk about content, all the time. In my mind, content is creating videos to put yourself out there. But you think about it in a way that can actually get you a new job. So how is that valuable for people?
So I think when people think about getting a new job, they think about a resume and submitting a resume and a cover letter. But the thing about creating content, and when I think about creating content, what comes to my mind first is writing. But that's because I'm a writer. But it can be whatever speaks to you. What differentiates a job seeker when it comes to content is it enables you to share your knowledge with a potential employer in a way that your resume and cover letter don't do. And so if you're knowledgeable about a particular subject, whatever that might be, project management or finance, if you share it in a blog or in a video, or being on a podcast, that's a way of differentiating yourself that can really make you stand out as a potential employee.
For sure. And, a lot of times when I work with media training clients, they want to put themselves out into the world and they want to be seen as an expert in their field. But a lot of them work in corporate America too. And, they're not just entrepreneurs like us. And they want to put their thought leadership out into the world, but they've never done it before. And there's always a little bit of angst about putting your words out there and having your employer maybe see what you're doing or ideas that you have. I mean, I know that happened to me when I was working in television. I started writing about productivity and list making, and I almost felt like, should I be hiding this? Should I show them that I have other interests outside of producing television? What do you say to people who are a little bit anxious about getting started?
Well, it's a really good question, but I think that anyone who's an employee of an organization should think about the fact that it enhances the brand of the organization if you put yourself out there. I was in that situation too when I was working for an organization and I started to write for Harvard Business Review and Fast Company. And I thought, what is my employer going to think about this? Are they going to think that I'm kind of moonlighting and, taking my time away from them if I'm doing this? But it was really enhancing their brand by sharing my thought leadership. And, they came to see it that way too.
That's great.
So
It's a
that's
good flip of the mindset, much better perspective than, it's more of an abundance mindset versus scarcity. So I really love that. Now let's talk about the actual doing of the content creation. How do you come up with topics? What should people write about?
so people should write about what they know. And that's the first most important thing. And you can start small. So I
Hmm.
think what scares off a lot of people is, first of all, they may see it as self-promoting. But it really isn't about self-promotion at all. It's really about sharing your knowledge in a way that other people can benefit.
Hmm.
So if you're not used to writing, for example, long form articles, start by commenting on what thought leaders have written about. So if there are people that you admire in your field, find them on LinkedIn, see what they're writing about, and then write comments back to them about what they've written about. That's a way to start.
Hmm.
Or find an article that you found interesting, repost that article with your own comments about what you think is interesting or innovative about this article, and share it with your network. That's a way to get started. So you can start small and then grow from there.
Yeah, and get into the mode, right? Get into commenting, seeing what
Yes.
people are writing, just really seeing the different perspectives that are out there, and then that jogs your own mind to be like, well, what do I actually think about this? This person put their comments out there, but they put their opinions out there. What do I think about this subject? So I like that because it really, get your brain working in a way that maybe you haven't used it in the past. What about if you're looking for a job, right? So we talked about people who are currently working in corporate America or wherever and writing content. What if you are now looking for a job, which many people are, and you are hoping that what you write will get the attention of an employer? What's a strategy for this?
So I am a big believer in targeting um, employers.
Hmm.
So you should have a list of target employers that you're interested in. And what you can do is you should in within that target list, I'm assuming that you have an industry that you're interested in, a certain role that you're interested in. Find groups on LinkedIn, for example, that focus in those areas,
Hmm.
and start discussions in those groups. That's one way of doing this. And whatever area is of interest to you, you can find a group on LinkedIn that meets that interest. And that, again, post an article, share it, start a discussion, or find those target employers and start commenting on their posts. That's a way to actually target the employer and share your knowledge at the same time.
Yeah, and it does work. I mean, I've had clients who, I had a wonderful client who was a fashion designer for many years, and then she was making a pivot to trend forecaster, and so she wanted to be seen as an expert in that area. So we started working together, and she would create content around some of her trends and her ideas, and she really did get a lot of interest from industry, experts, and that's how she ended up getting a full-time job that she wanted with the company. Was she was putting her stuff out there, and they saw, hey, this person has some really great ideas. She's really
Mhm.
thinking in ways that we need inside this organization. So it worked out for her. It started first as freelance projects, and then eventually she was now in-house full-time somewhere. But it can work. This can happen. I've seen people do this strategy too with conferences, to be invited as speakers to create content around
Mhm.
whatever's happening. Have you seen this too?
Absolutely. Targeting conference is a great way to do this, because every industry has conferences. So, you can offer to speak on a panel, or, submit to, host a speaking engagement at a conference on a topic that you're knowledgeable about. That's a fantastic way of gaining visibility.
Hmm.
Um, that's, just a wonderful way,
Yeah,
other than, some of the other ways that we've talked about,
for
without a
sure.
doubt.
Yeah, for sure. I see Amy says hello from California. Hello, Amy from California. Thank you for watching. Those of you who are watching either on the replay or here with us live, feel free to leave your questions and comments below, and we will get to those at the end. Any career question you want. If it's not about content and it's about, how do I leave my job or whatever, Susan's got the answer. So anything that is career related, feel free to ask, and I'll make sure that we get that answered for you. Susan, I want to ask a little more about timing of this. Like, how long do you have to do this? How often should you be posting? Is there a better time to start? What does that look like?
What's most important, Paula, is that you do it regularly. So if you just do it, once or once a month, it's not enough. People have to get to hear your voice in whatever form that is. So if you like video, you can do it on YouTube. If you like writing, you can post on, LinkedIn, but you have to consistently create that content and do it at least 3 times a week. That's the bare minimum. And so what you can do, and I know you love lists, Paula,
I do,
is,
yes.
is create a list of content for yourself. What are the topics that you're knowledgeable about? And, for the next 3 months, what are the topics that you're going to write about? Find those articles that you're going to comment on. Seek out the thought leaders. Look at the conferences that you can speak at, and put together a plan so that you're going to be out there for at least 3 times a week so that people get to see you and hear your voice.
And the 3 times doesn't have to be a big, long blog post every single time, right? I mean, we can have different kinds of content over the week.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's interesting, the idea of the editorial calendar. I love it because that's how I live my life. I always have, as a producer, there's always a plan of what's happening and what stories we're doing and all of that. But I will say, oh my gosh, now 10 years ago or whenever it was that I started my blog on list making at listproducer.com, I didn't want to do it. I was like, that's something I do at work. It feels like work. It's not fun. This is supposed to be a fun project. But then I wasn't doing it. So without that accountability, without the editorial calendar to say, hey, this is what's going up this day and this is what's going up that day, you won't do it. So make sure that you do embrace a little bit of structure. Otherwise, you might not do it. And the other thing that you said that sparked something for me was about seeking out thought leaders, seeking out people who you could possibly even interview. And I love this because if you have a podcast, if you have a live stream show like this, if you have, a Q&A series on your blog or something like that, you can then ask people who you respect and look up to and who you want to network with if they would like to be featured. What do you think of this?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because one of the things that I was going to say is that people are hesitant about networking. And in the work that I do with clients, I hear constantly about their hesitancy to network. But what you just said about interviewing thought leaders is a fantastic way to build your network without seeming like you're asking for something.
You're giving.
Because
yeah,
it's giving. If you're asking someone to if you're requesting that you interview someone, you're enabling them to get their thoughts into the world, but you're getting to know them and building a relationship with them at the same time. So it's mutually beneficial. And that's one of the wonderful things about networking in the way that it's done correctly. So you're right. If you have a podcast, but even if you don't, if you just want to interview someone for an article, that's a fantastic way to invite someone into your world that you don't know and say, I'm writing this article on X subject. You're an expert in the field. Could I interview you for 15 or 20 minutes to get your thoughts on this topic? And people love to share their expertise.
They do.
And then you're building a relationship.
Yeah, for sure. And those relationships last a long time. I have to say, as a long-term journalist, I still talk to, connect with, network with people who I interviewed 10, 12, 15 years ago, in television. Still to this day, I'm still friends with some of those people, and I've gotten opportunities because we still know each other. We follow each other, all of that. So you never do know what will come of it. So I'm a big fan of putting content out there and coming from a giving first perspective, right? This isn't something that you're saying, hey, I want to pick your brain about my career. It's like, no. I want to know about you as a thought leader and what you think and put their ideas out there. And that's a really nice way to kind of switch it up from what they're used to hearing too. So these are
Exactly.
people who are used to people wanting their time for themselves. We have a question from a LinkedIn
Okay.
person about some career stuff. What is your advice on corporate career reentry after a 20-year absence?
My first piece of advice is to make sure that your skills, whatever they may be, are up to date. Because a 20-year absence is a long time, but it needn't be a barrier. If you have invested in yourself to keep your skills relevant. What people say to me very often is, oh, there's ageism. I'm not getting hired because of ageism. But what I've seen very honestly is that it's usually not ageism. It's usually that people don't have the relevant skills that employers are looking for. So that's a piece of advice number one. Advice number two is don't just apply online. You're never going to get there. Use your network to figure out how to best position yourself and use your network to help get some introductions into employers where your skills are a good fit, because you want to avoid online applications as much as possible. So those are my two pieces of advice.
Great. Well, good luck with your job search, LinkedIn user.
Yes.
Hope it works out for you.
Yes,
I
definitely.
had a thought as you were giving your advice about, obviously everything is online now. So you have to apply online is what everyone wants. But you're right. You need a real person there to be your advocate to get you through the door. What about sharing content as a way to apply for a job, as a way to do a follow-up? Is there any strategy there? Because I'm wondering, if people have created all this great content, they should be using it in as many places as possible.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I remember a client I had a number of years ago who was in a competitive job search and she wasn't hearing back. And, a question that I often get is, well, how do I follow up and how
Sure.
often do I follow up? And there's only so many times you can go back to the employer and say, what's my status and so on.
Yeah.
So I suggested to her that she come up with a mini proposal for what she would do the first 90 days on the job,
Mm-hmm.
which is content creation.
Yeah.
It's looking at the business or the organization and what you think they need and putting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so she did that. And in this case, it was a not-for-profit, and the executive director was so impressed that she did wind up getting this job.
Amazing. Wow. See, so that is it is a little bit of, that extra work, but at the same time, if you're already creating this content, if you're already thinking in this way, it makes it a lot easier. It's not like, oh gosh, no, I have this homework to do. It can really get you to the top of the line. So I love that.
Absolutely.
Front of the line. Susan, this has been fabulous. Thank you so much. Those of you who are watching the replay, if you have questions, leave them in the comments below. We're going to continue to check those out and make sure that those get answered. And Susan, you have a freebie for everybody. If they go to susanpeppercorn.com/resources, can you tell us what they will find there?
Yeah, so if you go to my website, there are actually 4 resources that you can download, and you'll see them here. There's an interview survival guide, which gives you the top questions that are asked on an interview and how to answer them. There's a career fit index that gives you an explanation of how to think about your job fit and whether you're in the right career. There are 25 tips for making a successful career transition and 6 steps to creating a personal brand. So you are welcome to sign up and download one or more of these.
Fantastic. Well, that's so helpful. And I highly encourage you, everyone listening, watching, to download those, get on Susan's email list because she does all kinds of cool stuff, a lot of webinars and workshops and things throughout the year. So you definitely want to be a part of that. Whether you're looking for a job or not, these are skills that you're going to need to up your game. So Susan, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you are welcome.
And I've got a freebie for you too. You can check out my checklist for becoming a go-to media expert. If you go to paularizzo.com/checklist, I talk all about content, how to create it, and how to be seen as an expert out in the world. And keep those questions coming. If you've got them, put them in the chat boxes below, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks for being here.